Hello and welcome everyone. Today, another episode of Sacktown Talks. Today we're having a great show today with David Quintana. Talk a little bit about his history in the business and also about his new show, Political-ish, which debuts here on the Sacktown Talk Network. David, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on. How's it going?
Hey, Jared, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, no worries. Good to have you.
Got some Bozzoli in my belly. I'm feeling good, all spiced up.
It's tough getting lunch around here today, huh? So
yeah, I was it.
Not a lot of choices.
I was the only person in my well.
Amazing.
And it lived up to my, I have this little life theory, which is the more crowded a restaurant is, the better the service. And the more empty it is, the worse the service.
Yeah.
And it proved true again, man.
Right.
Yeah, like I was the only dude, and like I had to go chase the waiter down a couple times. God bless him, though. I know it's a tough time for restaurants, so I left him a good tip anyway.
Yeah, amazing. So did you have to sit outside on the patio and
sat outside.
do the new shutdown order? And interesting.
It was tough over there. I walked down K Street the other way. I couldn't find anything open, so ended up going to my well.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was down here a couple weeks ago. I tried to grab a sandwich. Just nothing's open.
Nothing's open, man.
It's going to be tough for us down here, I think, for the next few months.
Yeah.
Definitely a new normal. Kind of talking about the new normal, I guess go into a little bit about your background and I guess kind of what you do and kind of your business here in Sacramento. Can you kind of tell us about kind of what you're up to lately and kind of bring us up to speed?
Yeah, well, I have a firm called, I am part of a firm, not mine. I'm one of 7 partners in the Resolute company. And we are just right around the corner here, and we have a pretty broad spectrum of clients from tribal gaming to DaVita, American Express, Netflix. It's just water districts. It's just all across the board, and which is good. So I keep my hands in a lot of different pots.
It's amazing. I actually got off on the wrong elevator floor, and I saw your office, and I was like, wow, this is just like such a beautiful space. I was like,
thanks, man.
What is this company? What is Resolute?
Dude, I appreciate that. We got, I got an office, one more office to lease, if you know what I'm saying. But it's kind of funny you say that because when I was younger, I wanted to be an interior decorator or designer. I don't know what the term of art is, but I used to want to be an interior designer. And I was in the military in the early 80s, and I went to a class on interior design, and I was the only dude there. And again, it was the early 80s, and I was in the military, and so I was like, oh, man, this ain't for me. I got to go do something else. But I kind of blew it because I think that would have been my niche. So this office and the previous office, I was very lucky that I was able to completely design from the studs up everything. And so I designed everything. All the art is mine. Took a lot of joy in doing that kind of stuff. And so, when I retire from here in 7-8 years, I'd love to continue doing the interior design stuff.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful.
So
it's beautiful. It's good.
I will always thank you for saying that, man. Thank you for noticing.
You're welcome.
Sorry about your ears.
Kind of talk about the Resolute company. Like the Resolute desk. Can you kind of talk about I guess the name? Because that's just such a cool name.
Yeah.
Too. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's unique. That's something different.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing that. We have a partner, Sean Henschel. Sean's been around for a while. I met him when he was with Assemblywoman Jenny Oropesa back in the day. Do you remember her?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She was good. She was on GO, so your dad probably dealt with her a lot.
I remember I interned for Herb Wesson back in 2003. So.
Wow. Was that when he got kicked in the nuts by the monks? Anybody remember that? No, he kicked a monk. Do you remember that?
No.
There's a great picture. If you Google image Herb Wesson kicking monk in the nuts, you will get a great picture. These guys came onto the floor of the assembly and they wanted to show, how their intestinal fortitude.
Really?
And so on the floor of the assembly, everybody there, they got the speaker to give a full wind-up kick.
Wow.
And he did it, and the guy just stood there.
Phil, you're gonna have to put that.
You got to put
the
that
YouTube part.
You got to
see if you can track that.
Please
video
put
down.
that picture up. Do that, man. It's a great picture. I'm sure he's already pulled it up. It's a great picture. So Sean Henschel was Jenny Oropesa's chief of staff, and he was Bill Quirk's chief of staff, and we were going through a long naming process because we wanted to get it right.
It's always tough to pick a name.
Yeah, man, it is. It's fun and tough, and naming after people it just doesn't we want to get something that's replicable in other areas, in other places. And so say if you take your firm to, Idaho or Iowa, no one knows who Quintana, Henschel, Gonzalez
or
are.
capital strategy, capital this, capital
that.
California this,
right,
California that. Yeah, everyone has kind of a similar cookie
Correct.
cutter name.
That's right. And so we all had a vision of a name that could be whatever you want it to be.
Right.
And it could be more than just lobbying. And as you know, there's a lot more to this business than just lobbying. So we didn't want it to be that strategies or, you know what I mean? So we were looking for a word, and we went through a long process, and that's what kind of won out. Resolute and Sean Henschel really liked it because of the Resolute desk. And I'm impressed you know that, man. That's pretty good.
I just heard that. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
And it was named after the HMS Resolute. It was built out of that ship, which was a British warship. And we actually have a couple of pictures of both the ship and the desk, but I haven't put them up yet because I used the nails. No one knows this. They're probably wondering why they're not on the wall.
Right.
And the truth is, if he's listening, he's going to hear this.
Right.
I used the nails. I used the nails for other art. So I got to get the nails for your pieces, man, and I'll put them up. Because Sean went and bought the...
Somebody go get some new nails.
Yeah, he went and bought the pictures of the Resolute desk and the ship. And they were sitting there, and I used the nails. So I got to put them up. I got to get nails.
Well, that's good. That's always the last thing to put together, the art. Something we've suffered with here, going in and out. But you get the furniture, you get everything looking good. But putting the art up, that's when the final touch.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just kind of going in your background, I guess. How did you come to Sacramento and try to get into this business in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild life. I won't go that far back because I go far back in life.
Yeah, you're saying you're retired in 8 years. You're too young then.
No, dude, I'm 56. So I had a long life, and then I went to law school at 30. And
Boston College, right?
Boston College.
Go Eagles.
Yeah. No, I went to college at about 30. And then I went to Davis, then I went to BC, and I did an internship with the San Diego DA's office. No, I did an internship here at the Solano County DA, where the current Sacramento DA was one of my bosses there. And then I got hired by the San Diego District Attorney's Office. But I'll tell you what happened. I went to a private law school, and I'm saying that for a reason. I went to a private law school, which meant I had private law school debt.
Right, yeah.
And
some of that too.
And then one day the DA guy who had been there 17 years called me into his office, and he was giving me a pep talk, and he's like, man, if you're here for a while, here's what you could make. And I don't know why he did this. It was really a kind of a douchey thing to do in retrospect, but I'm glad he did it because he showed me his pay stub. He's like, you could do that. You could be right here. And I looked at that and I was like, oh shit, that is not where I want to be in 17 years. My lifestyle will take a big dip. So I had done an internship here or there in the Capitol, and I realized that lobbying in the capital world was just sales. It really is. I mean, I think when you boil
Political
it down,
sales. That's what I always call it.
That's what it is, man. We boil it down to its essence. It's sales. And when people ask me about lobbying, what do you got to do to be a lobbyist? I say you have to be an above average intelligence. You have to have above average intelligence and be a good salesperson. And you only have to be above average intelligence because you have to be able to grab ideas really quick and put them in your head and go over here and repeat them. And if you it takes a little bit of intelligence to do that, and you got to put them in a way in which can make it easy for a person to digest, and then you got to sell them, and it's really sales, man. Some of the best people I know in this business got their skills from sales, not from law school, but from sales, because they can sell ideas.
That's funny, because I went to law school as well. As you know, my father was a lobbyist. He was a lawyer.
Yeah.
So he was always said, go to law school. And I remember being in law school being like, why am I here? And that's always, and then, I practiced a while at the AG's office before coming back into this. But you're right, they're two separate worlds. And I always thought, if you want to make policy, you want to make the law, you should know the law. And why that can be kind of true, maybe if you want to get a little wonky, you're so right. It is just how you sell that policy. And the best lobbyists are the best salesmen.
I agree. Yeah.
And so I always get young staffers coming up to me thinking, oh, I'm thinking about going to graduate school or law school. What should I do? And I said, don't waste your money, don't waste your time, because it's what law school's like 30-40 grand a year now.
Yeah.
My wife has over $100,000 in law school debt. And luckily they have the program where if you work with the government for 10 years, they'll forgive it. But, like back when you went to law school, they didn't have that. So
no,
yeah.
No, there was no forgiveness.
Right.
There was no forgiveness. So I've had people tell me the same thing. I've had people who were already like lobbying, and they tell me they want to go to law school. And I'm like, why? It's just, this game's about who you know.
Right.
And right?
Yeah.
You know people. You're here. Like, you're talking to
Right.
me, and people like me, so you know people. I don't know, and I say it once, and that's it. Then I just they're going to do what they're going to do, right? So
Yeah.
But I feel like I have to say it once. You're going to be in the exact same position, except you're going to probably have $90,000 worth of debt, at least. So good luck on
So
that.
do you even keep your license up, or
No,
you're
I
inactive?
let my license lapse. I was the minority public safety. I was the minority consultant to the Senate Public Safety Committee. That's where I started. And I kept it for the first 2 years because I thought, I need to be an attorney in this gig. And after the first 2 years, I'm like, I don't need to be an attorney in this.
Yeah.
I have all I need, but I don't need to be licensed. And so I let it lapse. I probably have to go back and fix it because it does say, I think it says something that's not that attractive on it. It said, like, if you don't pay and you just go, F it, I'm just going to let it lapse. They put, the wording of it is such that you might want to go fix it. So I forget what it is. One of my partners is still a practicing attorney, and he told me, David, you might want to fix that, because if someone looks up your license, it says, not allowed to practice or something like that. Anyway, the way they word it, it gives you the incentive to go and, make your back payments to get rid of that wording. So I always make a note that I should do that, but I probably never will.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of back payments too.
Yeah, it's
probably not worth it.
Yeah, it's 18 years.
Oh wow. So kind of I guess take it back to the staff period. When did you make that transition from staff to actually get into the lobbying world?
Yeah,
how was that?
Man, I owe it all to a guy named Jim Brulte. He became leader, and he told me when he got elected leader of the Senate Republicans, and they were. Because I was non-political, I was apolitical. I was at that age, I was 33, and I just wanted a job, so I went with whoever would hire me.
Right.
And so at that point, they were looking for people, and so I said, "Hey, man, I'm your guy." And when he became the minority leader, he said, "Hey, man, he was always looking. Brulte was always looking for people that he thought were bright, but just had never had the opportunity, and that's why I'll always be thankful to him." So he thought I was a bright guy for whatever reason. He was deluded, but he thought I was a bright guy, and he gave me an opportunity. And I became his ledge director, which was a black hole because he only carried 6 bills. On purpose, because he's like, dude, I'm a Republican. I'm not going to get anything passed if they don't want me to get passed. Well, I'm going to waste my time on that. And so, and then Brulte.
Right.
Yeah. And then one day he called me. I was sitting at my desk. It's funny how life works, man. And he called me and he said, I was sitting at my desk. It was during lunch. For whatever reason, I didn't go to lunch, probably because I couldn't afford it. And he was taking a bath. And
a bath.
He was taking a bath because he would call sometimes from his bath, and you can hear the water.
Everyone's just picturing Jim Brulte in a bubble bath right now.
And he would have thoughts, right? And he would call his staff. And this day he called. And he said, "Hey, David, this tribal gaming stuff is probably going to be big. Why don't you figure out a niche for you in this tribal gaming thing?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, what do you mean?" He's like, "I don't know, be the liaison to tribal gaming." He goes, "I don't know, I just think it's going to go places. You should just see if there's something for you." For a place in an industry that already didn't have 1 million people in it. Right. And I was like, "Wow, that's a great idea." And so I created a bio and a pitch deck for myself as the minority liaison to California's Indian nations, and I sent it out to put together, because there were computers in those days in 2000, 2001. I mean, it was Alta Vista,
Right.
You had DOS prompts and stuff.
So this was after Prop 1A passed, so just
right as Prop 1A passed.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I think there might be something. You should see how you fit into this thing.
might be a good business to get into.
Yeah, and he's like, there's not a lot of people in it yet, and you're swarthy. And so he didn't say that. I added that. It's probably in his mind now. Yeah. And so I put a little deck together, sent it out to people. I put all the leaders together because remember, this was like before the internet was really big, so there was no list you could go on. You had to actually call people up. So I looked them up, called them up, and then within, I think, 6 months, an organization called California Nations Indian Gaming Association, CNIGA, was looking for a ledge director, and they came to me and said, hey, we'd like to hire you for our ledge director. And I was like, gone. And I left and haven't looked back since. Because remember, I was like non-political. Right. I was really a non-political person. I had never even voted before I got my job. I don't think I even voted really then. I was non-political, right? Wow. I had a long life before I even went to college, and none of it had to do with politics. And so I'd been in the Air Force. I'd worked in mental health facilities. I'd been personal trainer. I just have done all. Right. I worked in a factory. So none of it had to do with politics. So I was happy to get out once I realized that the game is about sales.
Oh, interesting.
And so that's when I made the jump and haven't looked back since.
So where'd you grow up originally?
My dad was in the military.
So you just
my dad was in the military.
Grew up everywhere.
So we lived everywhere. I grew up all over. Grew up in Turkey, Greece, South Carolina, foreign countries like that. Right. Texas, Delaware. I grew up everywhere.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't have friends.
You're well seasoned.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't know.
You're like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a little younger, I think, right?
Yeah,
was he younger?
Well, you said you were what, 50, 58, 56? Yes, I think Kobe was in his mid-40s.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of funny because I run into people who have friends from high school or have friends from that they grew up with, they went to preschool with, and it's such a foreign idea to me because in the military,
especially in this town.
Yeah, in this town, a lot of people all you guys all know each other, like Paul Bauer, right? Who I was interviewing earlier. He grew
Paul
up
went to high school with my brother. Yeah.
Right, man. He's like, oh, those are the Cordanos. Yeah, I know the Cordanos, and I know that. And I'm like, what?
They used to serve ice cream at Vic's.
Yes.
I gave Duke Major a double scoop every Sunday.
They all know each other, man. I'm like, wow, this is so weird. It is so foreign to me. In this business, that's probably the thing that's most foreign to my makeup. The fact that you guys all kind of know each other, and the people that grew up here, like a Bauer, who worked with Duncan McFetrich, who he worked at Vic's with, right? And
his
he grew
dad,
up,
Jerry,
he grew up down the street with from the current Supreme Court Justice, I forget her.
Kennedy, Justice Kennedy,
Cantil or
Tani
Cantil. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, she was my neighbor out in Lamport. I'm like, God. So I didn't go to school anymore. I mean, I was moving every other year, and then right after I graduated high school, I went immediately into the military. So it was another series of just moving around. So yeah, I don't know people past
certain.
Like the age of 40.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you started ledge director in Siniga, and I guess the tribal gaming is just coming up right now. Tribes are expanding casinos, building casinos. Kind of, I guess. What did Siniga look like back in 2000?
Yeah, Siniga was interesting back in 2000. It was a little different. We had more gaming versus non-gaming issues at that time, which kind of led to me leaving. Led to my leaving to the Viejas tribe, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. They were my actual first client, and I'll be forever loyal to them. But they, at that time, and your dad was very familiar with this because he was always trying to work an angle on it, which God bless him, man. It's his job.
Well, We're all gunslingers.
Yeah, he was trying to work an angle on this. It was the off-reservation gaming issue. And that was really coming to a head in Siniga when I was there in the early 2000s. And you had tribes, because the membership was for all tribes. So you would have tribes in there, like from a Pechanga that has a huge casino, down to a lot of members who had no casinos. But they all got the same vote. And that's like having a California Banking Association that has, Bank of America and a guy that wants to have a bank, right? But they get the same vote.
Right.
So that became, I think they have solved that since then. I think that they took care of that issue. But when I was there, that was a big issue.
Right.
And that kind of led me to leave because that was an issue that constantly came up. The reservation shopping, the reservation gaming issue. And the association was at conflict with itself. But I think they've taken care of that.
That's interesting because, this is one thing you kind of experience once you leave the building. You come out, you establish kind of an association, you're working with association. Intra-industry politics are sometimes even worse than, what you get in the Capitol across the street. And that's kind of where you see, especially with an association, spin-off associations and the like, and the infighting within an industry. It's kind
you're
of
exactly right.
The unheard of stuff, but as lobbyist people over here, something we're always dealing with. So
no, you're right. You're exactly right. And I think a lot of us have, helped create associations that were spin-offs of the big ones. Like right now, I am with an association that I helped put together with a guy named Makai Polanski, which is the Cannabis Beverage Association. Mm-hmm. And that's because you don't think about it, but, the cannabis beverage sector is the fastest growing sector of the cannabis, industry. And I think it's because that's how people like to enjoy their sins.
Right.
That's how they're used to.
We're used to it, yeah.
Yeah, they're used to it.
That's the delivery system we're used to, right?
Right, exactly.
We're told smoking's bad for us, but drinking's fine.
Yeah, right. And a lot of people don't want to sit there, and
it's bad for my lungs.
You see the people vaping, and they always look kind of shifty because they're always like, and they, put it back in their pocket, and people don't like that. But we took some cannabis-infused wine to the country club. Oh my God, people just loved it.
People because in Toronto are taking
they held it because it just looked like their normal beverage. Right. And they were very, very comfortable with it. And I think that is
no stigma to it. Yeah.
No stigma. It was just the glass that they were holding, like they're used to holding, and they're used to, ingesting their fun substance with. So put that together though, because the overarching association didn't necessarily address the issues that are very particular to cannabis beverage, right?
Because you got to deal with ABC, you got to deal with...
Needs to be refrigerated. Right. It's a lot heavier than flour, which you can put in a baggie. So, for instance, in distribution of, say, edibles or
then you
flour...
Deal with the distributors,
right? They can do it like in a van. But to distribute cannabis beverages, you need... refrigerated large trucks, kind of like other alcoholic, not other alcoholic beverages, but like alcoholic beverages. So very, very distinct issues with that industry. But people like you and I, right? We notice a difference, and we go, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we put an association together to deal with your issues?
Right.
Yeah.
It's always interesting.
Did that cause anything?
We're gonna have to fix that, Phil. Kind of, I guess one thing you're kind of known for is the tribal bash, right? Can you kind of tell us, I guess, how that came to be? And kind of what year did that begin to start?
I don't know the year. I know that we just did our 15th.
Okay. So 2005.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm very lucky that I have a group of tribal sponsors that have had faith in this concept. So I know everybody says, and I'm not correcting you at all, but a lot of people always go, it's Quintana, it's Q's Tribal Bash, and I just always want to make people remember that it would not exist if other people didn't spend the money and have the faith and belief to allow it to go on, and I'm very thankful for that. But that's been going on since 15 years, since 2005, and it started off in the first one I did was over in the Sheraton, in that little area off to the side where you first walk in. I think I had 100 people attend, and I was so happy. And it was just we had a Native American folk singer, and she sat down in a chair in a corner and sang her Native American folk songs, and we had some punch and cake, and that was it. And then next year I was like, hey man, I think we can be bigger. I think we should have the event in a venue, right, and have people come to I think if we're in a bigger venue, we'll attract more people. And again, they believed in me, and I will always be thankful for that. And so we went to Mason's at that time.
Okay.
Right? And we went to Mason's, and
Like the one in the pavilions, or
no,
is there
I'm
one
sorry,
downtown here?
it's the one. It's Cafeteria 50 now.
Okay, right. Oh, yep.
It was Mason's then, and then we did our second one there, and I think I had like 300 people show up, and I was like, baller! This is huge, man, because I had 300 people show up,
Right.
and my entertainment for that were the Kings cheerleaders. I had the Kings cheerleaders come out.
In 2006. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the Kings cheerleaders come out, and they did a routine to a song called "Y'all Don't Hear Me Though," and so we did "Y'all Don't Hear Me Though." They came out, they did their stuff, right, and then they left, and people hung out for a bit. We had a DJ play music, and then next year I'm like, hey man, I think we can make this a little bigger, and so I kept growing it, and I had dudes who played garbage cans for drums. And they came out and they took it off, and people saw burlap sacks, but he took off the burlap sacks, and they had like garbage cans and wash tubs and and they played the drums. It was these like 3 white guys, like they looked like college bros, but they played the drums like no one's business, and that was cool. I think we had like 500 people, so it started growing a little bit,
Right.
and then we had a band. We had a live band, so when they were done, the live band kicked off, and then it just went up, and then finally I decided to take a risk, and I got a guy. Are we okay?
Yeah, it looks fine, Scott.
No, I'm just checking to make sure that.
Oh, the vacuum?
The vacuum.
Oh.
I'll leave with the vacuum.
Are you?
Yeah, no, we'll be fine.
Okay. So I got a guy, one of my favorite rappers. He's an indie guy. He has a record company label, and I'll always be thankful to him. A guy named Lyrics Born out of the Bay Area, and he was really one of my favorite guys. And he had a big hit out at that time, and so I called him up. He agreed to do it. So that was our first real performer.
Right.
And then he came, he performed. Then I think we got close to 1,000 people, and then we went on from there. And then the next year we had Coolio, and after Coolio it blew up.
Right.
And so then I think that was 1,500, and now I think last year we had 1,900 people.
Wow.
So it's always right around 2,000 now. And so the performers we've had
From 100 people.
from 100 people on the side of there, man, and the King's Girls. The worst mistake I ever did, though, two huge mistakes. One, I had breakdancers. I had these little kid breakdancers because I thought that'd be cool.
Yeah, those were cool.
I saw them at a Kings game.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem with breakdancers. The only people that can see them are the people standing around them.
Right. Especially when they're small.
Yeah, because they're on the floor. And I was like, no one could see. And so that was a fail. And I think that was the 3rd or 4th year. And then the year after that, I had, what are those drums, the Asian drums?
Yeah, like the big.
The taiko drums. Yeah. I had them. And so I had 6 taiko drummers. And they got there, and they started warming up. And I was like, oh, God. Because they were so loud. They're like the bagpipes. There's no volume control, right? It's one volume. And so the taiko drummers, I was like, okay, let's try 5. Okay, let's try 4. We ended up with 3 of them. And it was still loud as hell. But we ended up with 3 taiko drummers. So that was another fail. I consider that a fail. But everything else has been... And then, of course, the famous one was when we had Too Short. That was during the year of the Me Too, #Me Too stuff. And we had Too Short. Too Short was ready. He had even changed his songs to...
tone it down a bit.
To tone it down. On his song, where he's like... God, what is the song? His big hit song. Where he says the B word. Where he says, itch.
Phil?
Yeah,
Phil?
where he...
Burden? You guys don't know that?
Yeah, anyway, why they say it he says why do they say it like short, and he says, itch. And so, but to change it, he was going to say rich, right? So he's like, man, I really worked on it. And I said, yeah, I know, but your catalog, it's a little dicey, a little blue. And he's like, no, man, I fixed it. I understand the period of time that we're in, and I want to fix it. I want to show people that I can do it. I can do a clean corporate concert, and they don't have anything to worry about. I've done them before, and I know where we're at right now. I'm not going to go against that. I need, I got to make money.
Yeah, we all got to make money, yep.
But that morning, I woke up, and I had like 70 texts about.
Because it's always a surprise, right? Who's going to be the performer or not?
Yeah, well, the word got out.
Oh.
So it wasn't a surprise because the word got out. And I had 70 texts that people were saying, hey, they're going to boycott your event. People are going to be protesting outside. People are telling their members not to appear. And I was like, oh, God. So we actually had to pay him. So we had to pay him his money, which was, 5 digits. And he had flown down the night before. We'd already given him the hotel room. And I had somebody working for me, and she had to go across the street and give him his money and tell him, we're really sorry, man, but we can't go through with the performance. It's just not right this year.
Wow.
And we were fighting they were internally arguing about it, right, until the moment it was like go time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, no, man, I'm not going to get on stage and introduce him because I'm the guy who's going to be on the pictures of everything, right? And he was really sad. Too Short was really sad. He actually was bummed. He was like, he had a little backpack. And he's like, damn, dude, I wanted to show people I could do a clean show. He's like, I was ready. I'm like, I know, man. It's what it is this year. We just have to be respectful of the time. And so that was the Too Short story.
So I guess how do you guys find the talent each year to do this and book it?
It's hard.
You do it the same time every year, right?
Same time, because we want to get people on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So on Friday they have to show up. So you know what I mean? We get them on Thursday night.
Right.
So we do it the day before the Martin Luther King holiday. It's hard now. And the reason it's hard is, and people are always like, well, why do you have hip-hop? Why do you always have rap? Well, because we have a small stage. Because the stage is in the middle of the crowd. And, you can't have a rock band.
Why don't you have the Eagles?
Yeah, right. Believe me, I've heard it all, man. 1.5 months before the party, all I hear are everybody's an idea guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody's an A&R guy. So so there's a couple of factors that go into that. One, that's the kind of music I grew up with, so I do like that. But secondly, like a rapper or a hip-hop guy or woman, they're easier because it's only them, a DJ, and like one or two, guys, people doing backup, right? They got their, their yeah guy. There's a word for that. Gosh, I'm blanking on it now.
Little John, basically.
Yeah, right.
That's
Little
how
John was
started.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there, but Little John just killed it. He and E40 were they were just amazing. But so they fit the stage. Mm-hmm. They fit the stage, and it's a hype event. So people talk about country, but it's I get it. I get the country thing, and I like some country too. But it's a hype event, and if you look out into the audience, to the sea of people are bouncing, man, and you got to feed into that bouncing and that hype, and it's just kind of what they like right now.
Yeah, it's always my favorite, seeing the social media videos of the people dancing at the concert, and seeing the members and the staff.
Oh yeah, don't get on stage if you're a member.
Right.
Yeah, people got on stage with not Naughty by Nature. They got on stage with Coolio, and they was used in campaigns against them. That was a bad move. So it's like, yeah, have fun, but don't get on stage, man.
They'll find you.
Yeah.
You're talking about how you enjoyed kind of interior decorating, and you felt that kind of was your calling. What about the party planning, the prepping for the party? Are you involved in that, kind of picking? The set design, the ice sculptures, the food, drinks and everything. Do you enjoy that as much?
Every single inch of that, when you walk into the bash, like every sign, everything you see is like I've thought about it, and thankfully I have a really great team. Monique Van Hustis, who does who does all my stuff, who is the executor of all the crazy ideas. Monique puts it all together. Her and Angie Tate, and they take like the ideas and they apply them to the real world, and they get it all done. And then we've gone through a couple of different party companies, but without Monique, like, she knows how I think, and I'm able to say stuff to her. Hey, we need this kind of thing there, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Right. So, that's one of the reasons I love it, because I get to take a great place, the Cafeteria 15L, and the nightclub there, and Mahjongs, the whole thing and just
Right.
completely scrape everything and completely redecorate it. And then the music in the background, we've gone through a couple of DJs. The last one we used was Eddie Adul, and he and I start about 3 or 4 months ahead of time, and I start laying out a playlist, and
Wow.
he starts putting it together, and then he and I meet like again 3 or 4 times, and we email back and forth, and I'm like, okay, how about 30 seconds of this one, and then mix it into this one at this point. And here's why, because I've done this for 15 years, so I know exactly the type of person that's walking in those doors, right, at the moment it opens, and I know the type of person that's walking in the doors after the doors have been open for an hour,
Right.
because they're very different people. And I know the kind of mindset that they have at an hour and a half, and I know the mindset they have at 45 minutes, right?
Right.
Alcohol plays a big role in that, by the way. And so I'm able to, like, so it helps me craft the play set, because I know where people's minds are, and you can pick the music. And it's not easy picking the music, by the way, because the age goes from like 21 to 78.
Right.
So you have to pick songs. So a lot of the music that we use are mashups, because it's something that the older folks can go, oh yeah, I know that song, but
Yeah.
yet it has a beat where the younger people are like, oh yeah, that's all right. So that's kind of fun.
Like a good wedding band, good wedding mix. You know,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah, good
cross the
Not too
genres.
wedding, man. Not too wedding.
Kind of, like I remember as a kid, going to fundraisers very young. There was much grander back in like the 90s. You always had, music, big spreads, and that's kind of, you used to have a speakers bash back in the day. That's all kind of gone now. And basically, the tribal bash is the only kind of remnant of that still. So it's kind of interesting that you guys have been able to kind of capitalize that and keep this going for so
Well,
long, when everyone's kind of toned things back a lot.
I got the idea from the Speakers Bash, by the way, because theirs was called the End of Session Bash.
Right.
And I went to it one year, and I had to pay. I think you had to like pay to some nonprofit or something,
Mhm.
right? And then the entertainment were the legislators themselves, and so everybody's doing their fake polite, like, ha ha, that's really funny, Assemblyman Briggs.
Right.
Everybody was kind of doing their thing, and I'm like, what is this, man? This could be so much better. And then it was at the end of session when, one, everybody just wants to get out of there,
Right.
and two, everybody hates each other, right? Because they've been fighting all year. And I was like, that ended of its own accord, which it should have, because it came too much about them, and that's not really a party.
Right.
And after it had been done, I think about 4 years, that's when I said, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we do one at the beginning of session when everyone's all optimistic and shit, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you an opportunity to meet new people,
Right.
like the people that you don't know yet and that you're going to be working with all year. And let's not make it about any legislators. Let's make it about the entertainment.
Mhm.
And that's when they were like, yeah, all right, we'll give it a shot. And that's how it started.
That's
It started
funny.
because I saw the
end of session.
end of
bash,
session
yeah.
bash, and I thought, oh, this is a bad idea.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Awkward end of session bash.
Yeah.
That's funny. Kind of the interesting thing, I guess, about being a lobbyist, I guess, is working in different industries, different parts of the code sections and things like that, working on different amendments. Kind of, I guess, how are you able to, I guess, easily go from tech to tribal gaming to cannabis to, some of these other things you're working on, and kind of, I guess, be proficient in all that?
Well, having good people that you work with, I think, is helpful. So people that you can say, hey, can you work on this? Can you work on that? And so they can do more of the fine tuning and the more of the detailed stuff. So that's a really big part of it, so that they can work on some of the more detailed stuff. Because it's really tough for an individual to get deep into all of those things. But then I try to maintain a proficiency on everything. And I think once you've been doing it for a number of years, you just kind of do it without thinking. So you can kind of go in back and forth between the different subjects once you've been doing them for a long time,
Right.
and kind of just float back and forth. But having a good team around you is very, very helpful.
That's key.
Yeah.
Kind of, you have just started an Instagram account. Is that right? I think I just saw that.
Yeah.
We've all been shut down. We've had to change the way we're operating. Kind of, how are you adjusting to this new COVID restrictions and lobbying, and are you using more of a digital platform? Are you using more social media to kind of get your work done, or are you using more kind of your tried and true kind of
No,
methods?
I don't like this at all. This is horrible. I think a lot of the quote-unquote magic that a lot of us lobbyists have are that we're able to meet the legislators because of our relationships, and we're able to go to their offices and drop in, or we're able to see them in the hallway and go, hey man, you want to meet for lunch, or do you want to go have a drink? Not alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Like, hey, you want to go grab a drink and let's talk about this? And that's kind of what we do, and that's taken away now. And I think that's making it really, really difficult. And I've talked to other lobbyists, and they all feel. I'm glad I don't feel that way by myself.
Right.
I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel kind of ugh. So
it's like taking. I guess every lobbyist has different skill sets, different. I'll call them weapons, right? And yeah, it's like taking away one of your weapons, your
right.
in-person ability to kind of sell your policy or have that relationship in person. Without that, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about a lot of what we do is primarily be in sales, but it's kind of tough to make sales when you can't see a person,
right,
eye to eye, and make that sale. That's a big part of it.
I remember when the first week it happened, I had an in-person meeting scheduled, and it got rescheduled to a conference call. And I remember feeling how awkward it was having this conversation on a conference call versus in person. I was like, that's so weird. And that's actually the one thing interesting about Zoom, is that it gives you, I guess, that video kind of connection, so you can make sure the person's kind of paying attention or following you.
Yeah.
Where on a conference call, you just don't get that same.
I totally agree.
Feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why I hate
that's
the calls.
Been a tough adjustment.
That's exactly why I hate conference calls, because I'm thinking, the guy's probably just surfing the net while he's talking to
right,
me.
or working out.
Yeah, right.
On mute. Yeah.
So hopefully we can get around this soon. But that has given me an opportunity to get like Political-ish off the ground and create a larger social network, because I realize that this could continue to happen, for the next couple of years, and I want to be prepared for it.
That's crazy. So can we get into kind of Political-ish and kind of your plan for the show, and kind of I guess your first show coming up, kind of what's in store for the listeners out there?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. First of all, I was glad the name wasn't taken. I've had that name in mind for a long time, because I think that's how I see myself. I would categorize myself as political-ish. Like I make a living in politics, but I'm not really political. It's just the kind of the world I have fallen into. But I'm much more interested, I think, in like entertainment and pop culture, music, sports. Not typical sports though. I like to
the obscure sports.
Yeah, like MMA and stuff like that.
The ones you can still bet on. Yeah.
So it kind of fit how I see myself, and I think that's how the show is going to be constructed. So I think what I see for the show is, it'll have a foot in politics if it's appropriate. But if not, it's also going to talk about, like, one of the guests that I have lined up, and we're trying to get a time, is somebody who I mentioned earlier, Lyrics Born, the rapper out of the Bay Area. And he's very much into, right now he's very at the head of the social justice movement in the Bay Area. He's an Asian rapper. And so a couple of the things that I want to talk about were some of the hurdles that he faced in breaking into the industry as an Asian rapper, because he's talked about that before, right? I mean, he's like, hey, I'm a rapper, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Right.
And just because that was, what they saw. And he had to prove them wrong. And I want to talk about that in the music industry. And I also want to discuss, how does the entertainment industry move forward in the age of COVID, right? Spotify and other streaming services have killed record sales. To age myself, but have killed the sales of music, right? And so now they get paid like 0.0001 cent of every stream. So what they really do now is they make money off of their appearances. And I have noticed that with The Bash. And I'm glad that you talked about that earlier, because in The Bash, I was able to get Coolio. When Coolio did his performance, he was like $4,000. I mean, it was pretty cheap. I could have got the Yin Yang Twins for like $2,500. So I was thinking I should get the Yin Yang Twins just to hang out in my lobby. And go, I got the Yin Yang Twins for a day.
Yeah.
So so the price now, the price, I mean, you're talking 35, 40K. So the price for the appearances has really gone up because the price, the amount that they're making off of sales has just plummeted. So they have to make it up somewhere if they're going to survive. So, so that's the other thing, that I'm talking to Lurksporn about, discussing on the show, is how are you surviving when you can't make public appearances, right? You can't go to nightclubs. You can't go to festivals, because festivals have filled a void for a lot of the entertainment industry. They're able to do these festivals, and everywhere you look, there's a festival happening somewhere. But you can't do festivals right now.
Right.
So how are they making it? How are they going to make it moving forward? Because even if festivals and nightclubs come back and open up, I'm sure there's going to be limits as to how many people can get in there. But that's an example of the things that I want to talk about on Political-ish. Another friend of mine is an actress named Maggie Q, and she's been in a lot of stuff. She was in Designated Survivor. She's been in all kinds of stuff, right?
You guys do some of the animal stuff together, right?
That's right. And so I know her from the animal world. And so I want to bring her in to talk about her animal activism. But she also is very much interested in discussing the structural bias in the movie industry, where if you're an Asian actress, you're often cast as the Asian person, right? And then if you're already an Asian person in that movie, well, we already got one, right? So I've been with her before, meeting with legislators, and she has talked about that, how she wants to do something. How do we address this structural bias in the entertainment industry? And it's tough because it's entertainment, right? How do you legislate that? But it's a good issue. But that's another example of the things that I want to talk about on Political-ish. So is it political? Yeah, maybe-ish.
Yeah.
But it's also much more. It's pop culture and all that stuff. Look, man, I can't, people like you are already doing great shows, which are going into the, the weeds on in depth on a lot of the policy and stuff, right? I can't replicate that. So I'm just trying to, look for another niche.
Yeah, something a little more interesting for us.
No. Where I could, kind of, find a place.
Right.
So those are examples, I think, of things we're looking at.
The cross section of politics and pop culture. That sounds.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
Well, and so another thing that we're working on right now and getting our guests for is, and you might remember this. There was a family in Land Park on Riverside Drive that was murdered in 1991, I believe. The entire family was murdered.
Wow. And
the case has never been solved. And no one remembers that case. Do you remember that case?
No.
And you're like a Land Park boy, right? I mean, you're
I grew up in Elk Grove, but yeah.
But I mean, you're a Sacramento guy.
Right, yeah.
No one remembers that case, and it's because 3 days later, President Bush declared war in Iraq. So the murder of this entire family was kind of swept under the rug, or not swept under the rug, but just forgotten.
Right.
Moved off of the headlines. And it's kind of a shame. But earlier this year, the Attorney General put out a reward, I think it was $50,000 for any tips on anyone who might know anything about the suspects in this. And when you get into the weeds on that case, it's very interesting because there was a there was a dude who had them hold a safe for him. That dude ended up either disappeared or dead. We don't know. And then someone else had called about. Anyway, It's a really, really interesting case that happened here in Land Park in Sacramento. So that's another example of the things we want to do.
DA roots.
Yeah, man, we're going to solve that crime.
Yeah, get that $50,000.
Yeah, donate it. So, so anyway, I hope that's helpful on kind of the things that we're going to be looking at. So, political, I don't know, ish.
Right.
We'll see where it goes.
Well, it sounds like a great show. Excited to hear the first episode. Who do you have up on your first show?
We have Paul Bauer, who's a lobbyist here in Sacramento.
Yep. The always entertaining Paul Bauer.
Always entertaining.
Mr. Affable.
Oh,
yeah.
He is Mr. Affable. You're right.
He's like, when the first time I met him, I was like, that's like the definition of a lobbyist. Like, if anybody wants to know who a lobbyist, like, what is a definition? That's Paul Bauer. Yeah.
He is. He is affable. Like, he should have a sash.
Yeah.
It's most affable. He is very affable.
What's his new firm's name? Is it
Arrow Advocacy.
It should be affable.
Yeah, it should be affable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is a very affable dude.
Yeah.
So he's a guest, and Alex Vassar, who is with the California State History. He's with the California Historic. What's the name of that office? The
California State Library or California Historical?
The California State Library, but
Oh.
it's the office of it's Greg Lucas, the state
Right.
historian. So we're going to talk about history of not the history of the legislature, but we're going to talk about why do people not remember legislators?
Mhm.
Why are they forgotten? Why are electeds? Why is this business so ephemeral? Like there's no being gone like there's being gone in politics.
Right.
Like 1 year later, you are, who? And we're going to talk about that. Some of the people that have come and gone, some of the family dynasties that have come through here. And Alex always has a ton of good stories about duels
Right.
and all kind of antics that have happened here in the State House. So we're just going to take a little trip down Elected Street and talk about a lot of the interesting stories that we've run across with electeds in California.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you're just kind of touching upon it earlier before we started the show about one guy who served for 40 years as Attorney General, and I'd never even heard of him.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? Shoot. I might have already forgotten his damn name.
But yeah, to compare that with Assembly member who served 2 to 6 years 10 years ago.
Yeah, Attorney General
Yeah.
Webb.
Yeah, that's
he
it.
was 40 years. He was the Attorney General. That means 10 times the citizens of California said, Webb's our guy.
Yeah.
No one has heard of this dude, right? No one has heard of this guy. And it's just amazing, right? I mean, you would
Right.
think like there'd be something named after him
Or
or
a statue or
something. Mr.
Yeah.
Webb, 40 years, half a century as the Attorney General. And then we got the Jordan family. You got Frank T. Jordan, Baby Jordan, and they were Secretary of State for 50 years, the father and son.
Wow.
And have you heard of them?
Wasn't there a
There was a
Sam
mayor,
Simpson?
different guy.
Okay, different
Yeah,
Jordan,
but those
okay.
Jordans, like, it's just, isn't it kind of odd, this business
Yeah.
we're in?
It is.
These
And
people.
I guess how the politics has changed because I was reading Game Changers and kind of brought up the history of the Republican Party here and about how we've never had two Democratic governors back to back until this very year, or was it 2 years ago when Gavin was elected?
I didn't know
Jerry
that.
to Gavin. It's the first time we've ever had two Democrats elected back to back.
You're kidding me. I
Um,
didn't. That's
So how
new.
the states change politically and still evolving.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So.
Well, that's a good
That's
story.
gonna
I'll
be-
remember that little bit of trivia.
Yeah.
That's
Ask
good.
Alex about it next time he's on.
And you should watch that episode that we just finished of Political-ish with Paul and Alex, because Alex has got some great stories in there. Really good stories.
Yeah.
So
So he's got a great social media following. And
does he?
He's got really interesting stuff. So Alex Vassar out there on Twitter, good follow for anyone who wants to know.
All right.
Well, David, we're looking forward to your show. Thanks for joining the network, and pleasure having you here, and look forward to hearing more from you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. I
All
appreciate
right.
it. Yeah.
Have a good one.
Some are called dreamers.
Esto hay que darle vida.